Good evening. It's Thursday, the 2nd of July, and we're going to be talking about book covers this evening. And so I'm hoping, I didn't ask this question before I hit record, and I haven't. Mine are all back there, so I may end up just pointing, but while they're talking, I may go and get one or two. But Damiano and Jackie, have you got your covers handy? Your books
I
handy?
most certainly do.
Excellent.
If I swivel, you
Ah,
can
yes.
see them
Fantastic.
displayed. So
Fantastic. Damiano, let's have a look at yours.
Yep, I've got mine. I've got mine here to
Okay,
hand. There's
excellent. You've
one.
got two so far, haven't you?
Yeah, there's another, and I've got some other props as well.
Great, great. Damiano, we'll start with you, if you don't mind. Um, what did you do when you? I mean, obviously, we're all readers to some extent. It's my day job, so I don't read a lot of novels for pleasure. And I think once we've written our books, we've then got to think about the covers. And they say don't judge a book by their cover. But Damiano very handily and helpfully works in marketing. So you are the prime person, really, to know about presenting a product. So when you came to writing when you had your book finished or before you had it finished, what kind of research did you do for how you wanted your book cover to look like?
So, so a bit more of a background. So I do work in advertising, marketing, communications, but I am a creative director, um, and I'm a graphic designer by trade. So I went to university at Central St Martin's, which is University of the Arts London, and um, book book covers have always been a big thing for me as a creative, as a designer. Um, there is I've got it here. So one of the books I got when I was at university, I really recommend it. It's called Front
Ah,
Covers. It's just full of wonderful book covers. It's a bit out of date. Um, I went to university a while ago,
yeah,
so
I was going to say that was my question because one of the questions about book covers, because I love mine, I've designed all of mine, but the pictures were there already, so it wasn't that difficult. I didn't physically draw them. I got them from Adobe, um, and they covers change, and I don't want to change my covers because they do what they say on the tin. So I'm very reluctant when trends change to follow the trend. And it's kind of if you've got 100, say in the Amazon top 100, which we all aspire to be in, um, do we want to be the book that looks like the other 99? Or do we want to be the one that doesn't look like anything else and stands out more?
I would say that you'd want to look like the book that stands out. Absolutely. I kind of um so the cool thing, so I just said that book is out of date in terms of the book covers. The book covers that are in it are still brilliant and would still stand out today. One of the like this Louis de Bernier's book is in there, and it is still an absolutely brilliant book cover
Mm.
that stands out. I think as a reader of books, I think one of the worst one of the worst things is like if all the book covers look the same, particularly if you're going to buy or looking to buy a new book,
Mm.
um, there comes a point if you've read so many that you're like, have I read this or not? The book cover,
Mm.
that looks very kind of familiar to me.
Right.
Um, but it's the same with any product. Like there is an element of your marketing to your audience, so you have to take that into account. So your audience are looking for certain things, which is fine, and you'll note like so. Um, Crime book covers, fancy book covers, like, all the genres, they all have certain elements that kind of bind them together. But
Mm.
you can still be creative within that, or you should try to be creative within that because um, otherwise it's boring. I mean, like one of so um, I wanted to be a book cover designer. That was kind of what I wanted to do when I graduated. I always loved the idea of doing it. But it didn't happen. I went into publishing, but designed magazines, then went agency side and worked for advertising, marketing, communications agencies. Writing my books gave me the opportunity to actually um, design a book cover, which was for me just as exciting as writing the book.
Mhm.
And
Can you hold yours up so we can see them? Because they scream gritty, don't they? And the
yeah,
titles are very in your face. So
yeah, they
yeah.
are. They're slightly because I mean, again, lots of crime novels and thriller novels look kind of similar, and I didn't want to do that. I mean, some of the best ones don't. Um, So I wanted it. It's a bold book, It's like and I wanted it to just to feel like it is a bold book, to feel like it's gritty, to kind of so you kind of know what you're getting when you pick it up. But I didn't want it. Obviously, I didn't want it to look like everything else.
Yeah.
Um, and I have the advantage of being able to play within the. I know the software really well. Uh, I love typography. Um, I like I like design, and I yeah, it. I think the key thing, like for me, is you don't want to alienate your audience, but at the same time, if you're not a big name and your books are just coming out, you
Mm.
want to be noticed amongst like the millions of books out there. And one of the ways to do that is by having um, a book cover that stands out, that is well designed, that looks like, I mean, it is the first thing, it's one of, like the first thing people see, um, even if you're just selling even if you're just selling online via Amazon, for instance, people are still coming across your book covers first. And people, I love saying, like, don't judge a book by its cover, but
Mm.
um, I'd imagine most people do. I mean, I like there are books that I just want to buy because I really like the cover.
Mm.
Um, and and so you should absolutely place that as an author.
Mm. Well, I think certainly the cover and the titles. And as you say, for each genre, there's a certain expectations. Now, Jackie, with yours, your non-fiction, and again, what
Yes.
um, they do what they say on the tin. Can you swing us round again to your covers and talk us through your
Yes, of
covers?
course. I travel full time, and I've written 9 books about our adventures since we gave up work to hit the road.
Mm.
I write humorous memoirs about the misadventures that we've had in traveling, and I hope that the covers that I have do kind of reflect that. If I swivel, I'm not sure you can see because I've put them in the window, but my
Okay.
first series, perhaps if I hold them up, it's easier to
Mm.
see.
Okay.
They're called Adventure Caravanning with Dogs. Can you see those
Mm. Yeah. Year
there?
one.
Um, Now, I have absolutely zero graphic design skills. So when I first published, and by the way, Damiano, your book covers are awesome. I think they really
Thank you.
do stand out. And, they definitely convey the genre. But I did use a designer to create my book covers.
Mm.
Um, Number one, because I don't have design skills, but number two, because there are certain things that you do kind of need to be careful of when you're designing book covers, like the copyright and so on and so forth.
Mm.
I don't know whether you're going to come on to that, but my first series of books, as I say, they hopefully convey the humorous memoir. As Damiano said, your book cover is your first advert. I mean, that
Mm.
needs to stand out. People need to look at it. They need to be able to understand the genre. I mean, hopefully this kind of conveys that it is kind of a humorous travel book, and it needs to work as a thumbnail on Amazon. So the typography is very important. Certain fonts, I think, convey certain genres, but you need to be able to read them when it's a tiny little sort of thumbnail on Amazon. My latest books, again, I have used different designers for these. So, these are my latest books about our travels in the Beast, which is our 24.5 ton truck camper that I'm speaking to you from today. And again, just a quick thought about copyright. I mean, I've gone for illustrated covers with these, again, largely because of copyright issues. Our Volvo N10, a lot of people don't realise that if I used a photograph of that, that would be copyright because it's owned by Volvo. So I've got an illustration of a chunky looking truck that looks quite like the Volvo, but isn't the Volvo. It doesn't have the Volvo badge on. So so that just gives you an idea of sort of my illustrated covers for my travel memoirs.
And how did you find your illustrators for both books?
Initially, when I first published, I looked on, I think it was Jane Friedman, who publishes the excellent Electric Speed newsletter, and she had all kinds of information on her website of various suppliers for book covers, and I contacted various ones, and I had a wonderful relationship for 6 of my books with a lady called Debbie, who's sadly retired, and it took me probably 3 years to find another designer that I could really work with. In the meantime, I have recently changed Building the Beast. I did a second edition of Building the Beast. My initial cover was done by 100 Covers, who I'd highly recommend, actually. They charged me $100. That's why they're called 100 Covers.
Right.
They charged $100 for both. They had a special offer on, and that was for both the paperback and the ebook. Now, the cover wasn't too bad, remarkably, but what is limiting, unfortunately, with them is that they only use kind of stock images and standard images. So when it came to the cover for book 2 in that series, they couldn't really do anything for me. So we sort of parted company graciously, and I found another chap to do my illustrations on Reedsy. So he did the cover then for More Manchester Than Mongolia, which is the second book in the series about our travels. But more recently, the cover of my latest book I had done by a company based in Ukraine called Miblart, who are very reasonable, absolutely lovely to work with. And I do kind of like the fact that I'm supporting a business in Ukraine as well. But
Yes,
I'm very pleased with this one.
They're part of Get Covers. So
That's right.
I subscribe to their newsletters.
Yes. Their newsletter is absolutely brilliant. It not only covers obviously issues to do with book design and book covers, but they do every month they do sort of send out a little self-publishing newsletter, which is really useful. But they are a lovely company to work with, so I would highly recommend them.
Absolutely. Damiano, how this topic is going to come up in conversation when it comes to book covers. How do you think AI has that affected your business at all, your job, your day job, and you as an author so far?
It hasn't impacted me as an author, as a creative. There is definitely an impact, just because it allows people to do things that is good enough. I think for me, like AI is such a big topic, and it's an interesting one, particularly when it comes to the creative designs. The big thing about creative is that you're not creative because you sit at a computer. You're creative because what goes on in here. And regardless of what the project, whether I'm writing or whether I'm working on a campaign, it never starts in front of a computer. And it doesn't start with asking a computer something. It starts with talking to people or thinking about things and having a pen and paper and chatting. I'm currently mentoring a graduate at university, and he said very recently he was at a graduate agency work experience day, and there was a few of them there, a really big, well-known agency, and they were given a creative project to do. And so he got out his pen and paper, and he said the other four people around him got out their laptops and
Right.
put the question into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Now, and that was just weird for him. And obviously it kind of stunts the kind of conversation that can happen. So AI is drawing from information that it knows that has been fed into it. Um, People, if you use it in the right way, I mean, we've been kind of using AI for years. As creators, we've been using it for years. We have programs like Photoshop and Illustrator that allow you to do things quicker. And it's the same in film and television and animation. No one's hand drawing the cells now for animations. They're using computers in which to draw it. And so there's always an element of like technology pushing creativity forward, but as a tool. What it doesn't do is it suddenly doesn't make you more creative as a person. It gives you tools in which to help with your creativity. Now, the problem with AI and book covers specifically is if you ask it to create a cover for your I'll use, let's say, a crime thriller. I'm writing a crime thriller. These are topics. I would like a book cover for it. It will look at all the book covers that have been done and give you something very similar. I recently saw a post on a Facebook group of authors and self-published authors, and someone put up their book cover. And straight away, people knew it was AI straight away. And part of the reason why people knew it was AI straight away is because other people had used AI for their book cover and said, "Your book cover looks like my one." And and it looks like my one, and it draws from the same elements and it puts it in, and it has it. There is a style almost to AI book covers. It doesn't play with typography in the same way. It doesn't often get everything right, but you're not coming up with anything original. And I love, like Jackie, I love the fact that you're using illustrators. I mean, illustrators are amazing creatives, and you choose an illustrator based on their style and the type of work that they do. And they might cost more, and they certainly cost more than putting in a question, a prompt into a computer. But they will give you something that belongs to you, not something that they've taken and it's basically shared with millions of people. As in, like if all three of us, if we were all working in the same genre and we're using AI as our tool to create our book cover, we would just look the same. And again, when you're trying to stand out, in fact, you end up standing out for the wrong reasons, because there's a huge backlash against AI, and the assumption being if you've used AI on your book cover, then there's a good chance you might have used it to write your book for you as well, and as fairly or unfairly that may be. Because the other thing, completely get that not everyone can afford to pay a designer, but you really should. And I know, it's my industry, and it's it's kind of almost a little bit of protectionism, it could be said, but there is a real difference between people who think and those that don't. And we should be encouraging our creative arts and the people within it.
Yeah, no, I like the fact, in a way, I love technology, and I've been using Macs and for years, and all sorts of designing stuff. And designing is a bit like if AI writes your book for you, where's the fun in that? And I'm always a bit wary and I'm happily clicking on the no when I upload something to Amazon. I've just a couple of weeks ago uploaded a book for a friend of mine, and gladly ticked the no, I haven't used AI. And it's really interesting seeing the groups and Facebook feeds, how much backlash there is to AI. I think because we are a creative industry, we don't want anything that hasn't been done by other people. And don't we every day get emails from people offering to do marketing for us and do this, that, and the other for us? And when the likelihood is that they're going to go just get AI to do it. And I think there is still a doubt as to whether of the whole legality of it. Because I've had one of my books taken from Meta, from a piracy website, and I have a Google alerts for Morgan Bailey and Morgan Bailey, and every now and then one or other of my books appears on a pirated site, which in a way is a little bit flattering that they found little old me. But I'm then I think if people download it from a site that it clearly isn't legitimate, then if they're downloading a virus instead, then good luck to them. But it's not great. I'd rather people get them from the legitimate sources. So I think while there is resistance to AI, then we should stick to and we should anyway. What's the fun of not writing our books and not either designing our covers, or that's the fun of creativity, is doing as much of it as we can.
I think the other side of it as well is that if you're working with a creative or a designer, I mean, if you have a good relationship, that's fun in itself. I imagine, Jackie, you had like kind of good chats with the illustrators who illustrated your books, which are fun as well, you know, and it kind of, you have that originality, and you can be asked questions by a designer that you won't get with a prompt, and just not the same, and it's much more organic. And I completely get, so, you know, we go around and we see lots of different things, and there are lots of different things that can kind of inspire you. And again, like Jackie, I think like the whole traveling thing is absolutely amazing. So you're being inspired all the time. But then when you're writing, it's your interpretation of those experiences. And if you were then to just put a prompt into a computer, it's no longer your interpretation. It's someone else's, that the computer that has pulled, and then you lose your originality. And it's the same with design. It's no longer someone's interpretation of your work. It's who you've kind of briefed in properly and had a chat and said, I want to get this feeling across. It's a faceless interpretation based on work that's already been done, and it's no longer yours.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think the cover for More Manchester Mongolia kind of sums that up. I had very long conversations with my designer, and we are kind of chums now. And he came up with this wonderful design that isn't just like a picture of us sort of tootling along in a truck. He said he was inspired. I don't know if you remember when they used to do the weather on a sort of floating island in the shape of sort of Britain. I mean, that was what inspired him to come up with this. Now, I don't think AI would have ever come up with that in a million years, you know, so it's actually a very creative, you know, sort of way of interpreting a trip around, you know, sort of haphazard trip around the UK that I don't think AI could have ever done. And certainly as a travel writer, I don't feel that AI could ever reproduce what I do, because, as you say, you know, quite correctly, that all that AI can do is kind of rejig everything that's been done before. Whereas what I'm writing about is my specific experience of being somewhere on a specific day in a 24.5 ton truck with 4 dogs. And, you know, that is never going to be the same for anyone. And I completely agree with Morgan that the creative process, I mean, I write because it's an absolute pleasure to write, I would write whether I published or not. And to just kind of, reduce that to like sticking a couple of sentences in AI and trying to come up with a book. And I think perhaps a lot of people imagine that it may be a bestseller. They think there's money to be made, which is maybe not quite the case, certainly not millions. I mean, there are very successful writers, but it's not a path to sort of huge riches, with zero effort. So I think sort of maintaining the creativity. I mean, I have now gone down the route like Morgan. I kind of feel very happy when I sort of tick the no AI used box on Amazon. But I have also gone even further and written on all my book descriptions that the book is written by a human based on a human experience, because I think, with the absolute mega influx of AI generated books, that people maybe want to know that and want to understand that it is actually a true story written by a real person.
Well, apparently recently there's, I think in the last 2 or 3 weeks, there was a short story that had, I think it had won a competition and then found out very quickly that it had been partly written or suspected to be partly written by AI. And then I had a news alert on my phone today that the same story has won the Guardian Commonwealth Prize. And it's a kick in the teeth for writers who maybe use AI for research. I mean, Google searches, you're using AI. So as Damiano says, as you say, we've been using AI for decades.
Oh, yes.
Ever since we had computers, really. But it's particularly frustrating when something, there should be and I know agents, when I've been helping friends submit to agents, every single agency says we don't want anything that's been written by AI. And so the industry it's useful to a certain extent, but the industry is very not wary of it, but is now going, actually, no, it's not our best friend. We would rather have the author do everything and have the artists do everything. And it's good that they can tell that that's not been the case with this
Yeah,
one.
I think so one of the best designs that I've seen recently, and it really stands out, and you might have seen it in the bookstores. And what I read is Maggie O'Farrell's novel called Land.
Right. Yes.
And it's a stunning cover. But what's great about it is it looks like it could have been handcrafted.
Right.
And like kind of made from it looks like it's made from layers of paper. I mean, and I love it because that's how I would like to kind of create kind of collaging and stuff. And um, it's so anti kind of AI and fake covers. It's just it's just wonderful. It's like, and even the way the typography is shown, it's stunning.
You were saying earlier on that about the book cover book, and there's one that springs to mind for me is A Clockwork Orange, and I know it's been a film and we've seen the image as the man in the black hat, I think, and there's and there's also it's not a book cover necessarily. There's a very famous painting of a man in a bowler hat and a suit, and he's got an apple.
Oh, yeah, Magritte.
His head. Yes, that's it. Thank you. And so I think if you can find something that's striking, in a way, it's easier. I was thinking of the length of your titles, Jackie. Obviously, with Damiano, he's got one-word titles. And I know especially with the spine, when I've been, because my serial data up there, you started off as the serial data shopping list, which is obviously when you've got and it's quite a thick book, it's 100,000 words. So we did have space that was traditionally published initially to have all these on the spines. Can you show us one of your spines and see how it works? Oh, right.
Yeah.
You go
Is that
up,
easier?
that's
Up
it.
a bit.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You've got small and then large and then small and then large.
Yeah.
And we were
That's it.
saying earlier on about, because I noticed, I think all of our names are at the bottom, about where if we become famous, it's like Lee Child, his name takes up a third of the front cover in this huge. He's got a nice short name, which helps. His is at the top, and really, if he produces, if and when he produces another book, people won't really care what it is because it's a Lee Child.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, again, that's just good marketing. Um that's when him as a brand is much bigger than the title of any book that he brings out. Like, you know, he's been, you know, hugely successful for such a long time, and it's the same with, like, you know, Stephen King, for instance, and other, um I mean, Frida McFadden as well, and more, and Lisa Jordan, and lots of big name authors. It's um you could forget the title of the book because it's their next book, and you just want to um read it. So it makes sense from a marketing perspective that to let's make sure everyone knows the next Lee Child book is out. And then they'll see a big Lee Child in bookstores, in shop windows, as an ad comes along, and it's great. I mean, like, it would be nice to get there at some point where it's your name is like is the important thing. But I mean, I guess I have a longer name, so
Right.
it'd be interesting to see how I then put that in. But
Um,
I still think, and then, yeah, I guess, you know, that's a marketing thing. I still think that what should drive the book cover is the content within, and for it to give you it's like almost like a trailer, you know, like, kind of, you know, films have trailers. We have book covers. I know they have film posters as well, but that's their film posters are at the point of watching, or kind of going in,
mm,
um and so there should be something there, like Jackie said, like the conversation that she had with her illustrator,
mm,
made for a different book cover that's just like kind of completely relevant to the book that you're about to read.
mm,
Um, and that's really good. And I've got another example of a book cover here that's kind
mm.
of quite different. Um, and it looks different. And it's Nick Harkaway's The Gone Away World,
Oh, yeah.
um, which is a fantastic book. And and you're kind of wondering, you know, what are you getting from this?
Mm,
Um, you can feel it, and it feels different, but it's like it's a post-apocalyptic style book.
right.
But when we were talking about endings in our conversation, I don't know, I brought this book up then because it's one of those books that kind of just really stayed with me. The ending was so impactful, and I said I didn't even know if it was the ending and there was more pages, but there's a
Mm,
point in it where there's a revelation, and it's like, oh my God, and everything kind of, you start thinking about it in a different way.
mm,
And this just makes sense. It just makes a huge amount of sense. And so it's quite enticing, I think, as a cover in itself. But
mm.
then once you've
It's
read it,
simple.
it becomes even better.
Mm,
Um, which I think is just such a brilliant achievement,
mm,
um, from the designers to get to understand the book so well to
right.
create that.
And that's another thing. If you're doing your own covers, you know your book inside and out. So you know that what you're putting on the cover represents your story. How much did you tell your designer in advance, Jackie? You gave them the blurb or the synopsis, and how much
Yes,
did
I
you
mean,
tell them?
each of the designers I've worked with, they generally have some sort of briefing form.
Mm,
So, I mean, obviously, we had discussions about the style. Did I want to go for a photographic type of cover or
mm,
an illustrated cover? And I feel that for my genre, it's, writing a humorous travel memoir. I mean, obviously, you want to sort of be specific to your genre. So,
mm,
if you look at things like Bill Bryson's books, they are often illustrated. So
mm,
it's tying in with that, sort of style as
mm,
well, so that when people look at it, they think, ah, yes, I know exactly what this is going to be.
yeah.
But yeah, we had long discussions, as I say. I mean, I was on the phone to Paul, who designed the Building the Beast and the more Manchester cover for hours. And then we bounced ideas. He sent me sort of illustrations back and two. But
Mm,
yeah, I send them the blurb. I mean, I don't think designers have time to read whole books. I mean, maybe
yeah.
some do, if it just kind of appeals to them. But it's
Mm,
important as an author to be able to kind of put across the kind of mood of the book, and
mm,
maybe sort of color scheme that you want on there. And
mm,
then for me, because I travel, sort of with a big truck and four dogs, it is quite important. They're very much the stars of the story.
mm,
The truck, the beast features quite heavily, in the story, because clearly traveling with a large truck camper is not always the easiest thing, particularly around the back roads of Britain when we were sort of confined into Britain during COVID.
mm.
But the four little dogs that we travel with, which I hope you can't hear at the moment, they're having a bit of a mad
Well,
half hour outside.
we don't mind. We love
But
dogs. Can you
good, but
turn can you turn the book around so we see the back?
yes,
Because that's another
yes.
thing. What do you put on the back that entices? It's kind of almost, do you put the blurb from Amazon, or how much do you put on there without saying too much? So what do you decide
Yeah.
what to put on the back?
Well, I decided, I mean, I am, not so much as Damiano, but I am from a sales and marketing background. I mean, not with
Mm,
books, I was in scientific equipment. But I think it's important to understand that, like your back blurb or your Amazon blurb isn't a synopsis of the book, it's
mm,
a selling tool. So, you want to kind of hook readers. So I mean, I've started at the top here saying it's the comic memoir of a questionable road trip. So, I
oh,
mean, that immediately
very
tells
good.
people, sort of what it's
Mm,
about. And then the next line is "Don't go there." That's what everybody said. It's a book about going to Albania, and
oh,
everybody said, like, "Don't go there." But obviously we did,
good.
and
Yeah.
this is the result of it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I had to shorten this. I mean, I think it possibly is still a little bit long,
Mm,
but I had to shorten it because at the end of the day, I'm not telling the story. I'm telling a story of why should you read this book, so I've kind
absolutely.
of tried to, sort of get the destination in. I mean, it's very clear from the front that it's about, from B to A is from Britain to Albania. So
Mm,
you kind of know what you're getting with that. And then
mm,
why should you be interested in that is what I kind of cover on the back of the book. So, I'm sort of saying my slow dog-filled adventure winds through France and Italy, through places that you won't find in guidebooks. So hopefully people who are interested in dogs and travel would,
mm.
kind of appreciate that. And then the journey doesn't quite go to plan, which hopefully hooks the reader into thinking, oh, like, why did that not go to plan? Maybe that
Yes.
might be interesting to read. So
It's
yeah, I
still
would
the
say with the back
conflict.
blurb, it needs, I mean, if it's too long, people won't read it. It's like if you get long emails,
Mm,
people won't read it. You need to be, sort of pretty specific
yeah.
with what you do. And then also understand that, your blurb on Amazon, like only the first sort of paragraph or so shows. So
Mm,
you really need to get your story and your intent over very quickly, by sort of saying it's a questionable road trip. So you know immediately what it is. It's a road trip. It's not going to go to plan, and then a little bit of a backup as to why it didn't go to
mm.
plan. So
And do
hopefully
you
that would.
sell? Do you have books a stock with you? Do you sell books like
No,
you? Right.
I
So you
don't
are
at all.
relying. You are
Yeah,
relying then, really, aren't you,
yeah.
online?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether I should perhaps, diversify somewhat, but I do rely on Amazon. I mean, it's the biggest marketplace in the world for books. I mean, I have one copy of each of my books, but if people want to buy them, I mean, they're bulky to carry. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
very sad to say that when I started traveling full time 10 years ago, one of the hardest things to relinquish, because we live in a very small space, was my collection of books, and I had to move over to a Kindle, which I didn't like at all, because I just love the feel, the smell, just the whole experience of reading a book. But it was something that I had to forego with my lifestyle. But yeah, if I carry around loads of books to sell, it is sort of quite a lot of space and weight.
Yeah,
Not that we have to
absolutely.
worry too much about that. But then also, I'm the world's worst. Having been a salesperson, I don't know if Damiano, you find this. I hate selling myself. So usually if people come and say, "Oh, can I get one of your books?" I'm like, "Oh, here, have it, just have
Right.
it." I can't kind
Yeah.
of bring myself to
Right.
to
Charge
charge.
money.
Yeah.
Mm,
So no, so I'm probably better just leaving
right.
people to get the ebook or the
Yeah.
paperback from Amazon.
Yeah.
So
Damiano, how do you decide? Because obviously you work in marketing and you know how to be concise and how to get the message across. Did you find it that helped with your own book, or did you find you were still thinking, okay, what do I?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps. But like I'm not infallible. I'd make mistakes as much as anyone. But like you kind of work with people. As I'm fortunate that my wife is a director of communications, and
Right.
her background is she started out as an editor, um, and so I mean her job is to make sure that the communications kind of gets to the point, is concise as much as my job is, so
Mm,
we can have a discussion on it. But Jackie's absolutely right in what she said. It's like you put enough in the back of the book to sell it,
mm,
um, and to sell the story, so people understand straight away what kind of book it is. But there's a hook there. There's a hook to kind of draw draw you in, much like the Amazon page, um, and that's the thing. I mean, like no one like so. If you think about people browsing in a bookstore and they see your book there, they
mm,
look at the book. Every single person turns it around to then read what's on the back. No one just sees the book. Okay, I like that, and then off they go and buy it. Um, so the back cover is the front cover is what entices them to pick it up, but the back cover
mm,
is what then sells it.
mm,
And you absolutely have to think about that, and even within the design as well. So, um, how does the design wrap around when you're working with an illustrator, for instance, as well? It's like how much of their design needs to wrap around to the back cover, but
mm,
then knowing that you can't have too much detail there, because you need to be able to um, read the lettering and the blurb on the back. I just want to go back to something that Jackie said before about how long she spoke with her designer. I would say that if you hire a designer to design your book cover and they don't ask questions, that should have a massive, like, kind of red signal for you. Every single designer, at least the good creatives, will want to ask you questions, will want to know more about particularly when it's about any kind of design, but if specifically about uh, book covers, they want to know as much about their story as possible, even if they
mm,
would either read it, but if they don't have time within the time frames, they want to know. Um, they would basically want to know the story almost as well as you, because how else could they then um, create something that does your book justice?
mm.
Um, so if you
Most
hire someone and they don't ask questions, then you're not going to get the right book cover.
mm. Because most authors will write more than one book. So with Jackie, she would have carried on with her original designer had she not retired. So it is you are building a friendship and a relationship, aren't you? From day
absolutely.
one,
Oh,
especially because you
absolutely.
want them to be
Mm.
consistent. Damiano, can you read us the first sentence of each of your books? Grab us with your hook. I'll put you on the spot now.
On the back,
Mm.
the back. So the first for bastard, it says, "The only thing worse than a living bastard is a dead one, and it turns out in death, Frank O'Toole was the biggest bastard one could imagine."
Wow.
So that's
I love,
that bit
yeah.
there. And then
I'm
for calm,
hooked.
Intriguing, isn't it? The first sentence intriguing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even before the name, it's kind of, oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
then with karma, which is book two, it starts with, "Karma can be a real bitch, but she's my bitch, and I've got some people dying to meet her."
Wow.
And it's
The play on words.
yeah.
That's
And again,
really...
there isn't a huge amount on the back, but you know, um, hopefully enough to draw people in.
Do you print? I'll ask you both, Damiano first. Do you go with a glossy cover or a matte with your?
I've gone with a matte cover with my books. I think because, like I say, Amazon KDP is amazing, and so they like the print on demand is absolutely great. I think in a ideal world, I'd be working with a printer to print books, because there are so many different things that you can do, and it's just a cost. It's a cost thing. You can have spot UV, you can have embossing, you can have different things that can kind of pull out, you know, part of the story. Like going back to kind of Nick's book here, there is spot UV along here as well. So there's
wow.
There's texture that you can fill, and it works again. If I were to take my books as an example, you know, like kind of as happy as I am with the design, it's matte. I prefer the matte, but it's flat, and I would have liked to give it something a bit more, but you know, maybe one day.
Yes. Well,
But not at the moment.
I think it's Clay's in Norfolk who publish most of the top imprints, but you would have to, I guess, order a certain amount or have some kind of longevity to go for something.
You've reminded me of something as well, actually. So when I was a teenager, massive fan, and still am, of science fiction, sci-fi, particularly Star Wars. And I wrote to the book publishers of Star Wars books at the time, and asked them if they could send me book covers. And they did, and they sent me like book covers, and it was absolutely amazing. So it was with the flat paperbacks, but you could see again with all the embossing, the style, that it was great. And then they sent me some hardback jackets as well of books that hadn't come out yet. And I think it'd be really good. Actually, you should do it again. People should do it, like kind of write to publishers and see whether they give you some book covers, because one, it's just great because, like I said, I've always loved book covers, and I get all these books, and you know, like a bookshelf is like a display. And I think almost the sad thing is that we always tend to have books like this. And I know behind you, you've got your books this way. So I used to the reason why I liked kind of asking for book covers is so I could put them out up on the wall, and my bedroom wall used to be kind of dotted with all different designs.
Downstairs we have alcoves either side of the fireplace, and because I don't reading novels and pulling them apart is my day job, so I love short story collections, and I have a whole strip where they're all in colour, so all the white covers, and they are side out, because I've got so many, I've probably a couple of thousand books, and they go from white to black across with all the other colours in between, and it does look amazing. And I love paperbacks, but so when I read for pleasure, I do sit and read for pleasure. One thing I noticed about, I know we're going to wind this down now, but it's interesting that the cover you showed us a moment ago, Damiano, is very simple, and I've noticed a lot of, especially in, I don't know whether it's fantasy or maybe historical, where the covers are getting simpler, and there's the title and the name, or the name and the title, and an emblem. I think it was George R.R. Martin who had his whole series. I think the original ones were quite fancy, but the more recent ones to follow with the TV series just had an emblem on various. And I've noticed a lot of people doing that. And also the likes of Richard Osman, where the cozy crimes are now light with maybe a red border and so quite very simple. So I think the trend is obviously it depends on genre, but the trend has sort of gone from maybe complicated in fiction, certainly non-fiction. I know from Jackie is a different beast. Use that word.
I think with fantasy and science, fantasy in particular, they do tend to have quite complicated covers still in the main, and they do look very similar, and it tends to be almost like a second edition or a third edition book that becomes simpler within the fantasy world, because it's just a way. I've got books. I read a lot of fantasy books, so that's why I know. And I've never been a massive fan of the covers, as it happens, because they're all much of a muchness to me. But then every now and again, when they bring out a second or third edition, they create a more interesting cover. And I think it's because by that point they haven't established that the book is much more established, so they don't necessarily have to just attract. They don't have to design it to say, right, we are definitely a fantasy book, you can trust us. There's enough word of mouth to say, particularly with George R. R. Martin and well, with lots of them, this book is good. And so the book is already known before they so it allows them to be more creative and strip things back on the cover. I was always going to have a simpler cover because it felt, again, it has to feel in keeping with the type of book that you're writing. And Bastard is quite a bold, gritty, and it's a funny book and as well, but it's in your face, so it had to feel like that.
Definitely.
And Jackie's book, you can tell as well. There are stories within her covers, and which I think is great. And you're going to get like good stories within, because it's interesting.
Yes, they do have to say what they do. What's the phrase? It does what it says on the tin. I think Jojo Moyes, but it may not have been, where I'd noticed on Facebook a few years ago, where I think it was the French book had got a dog on the cover, and she said, well, the French are not going to be happy because there's no dog in it. And there was nothing. It may not have been her, but there was nothing she could do, because that was out of her hands. When you have a publisher, they decided that they wanted this picture, although it had a dog on the cover. Jackie, finally, do you have a book cover that I mentioned, Clockwork Orange, earlier on? Do you have a cover that stays in your mind? Somebody else has published?
I can't really think of one at the moment, but I mean, as you said, the Clockwork Orange, I mean, that is such an iconic image, and it is so simple. And I mean, at the minute you saw it, I think, people from many generations would instantly recognize that. I mean, I do tend to read a lot of, sort of biography and memoir. It's the principal sort of genre that I read in, as well as writing. And I must admit, some of the ones by Sue Perkins, I thought were very good, because she has a very distinctive image. Obviously, she's a celebrity, and her covers were just a very simplified graphic of her hair and her glasses, and it was unmistakably her. And I just thought that was incredibly clever. And there is a series of books, and they have kind of done them, sort of, each image is slightly different but related. I mean, that is something that we've not really discussed, but obviously, if you have a series of books, I mean, as Damiano's are, as mine are, they need to be, the designs need to be related. And that's, why I had my Building the Beast cover
those two
updated.
you can't really see very well, but they're quite
I can.
The two different characters are on there.
Absolutely.
And then with this one, that's the first in a series of 5. And the covers are the same, other than the dog changes. and obviously the
Right.
typing
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
So that, yes, but there has to be uniformity so that this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. It's lovely to see you both. And see you. I think Jackie, are you involved on Sunday?
I'm very happy to be involved if you
Okay.
would like.
Yes. I
Yes.
don't know, Damiano, I should have asked you this question. We're still recording, but I think you were otherwise occupied. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll see. We shall. I shall let you go, and very much appreciated. And see you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you soon. It's been
Thank
fun.
you.
Nice to meet you, Jackie.
It's so
Bye-bye.
lovely to meet you,
Yeah.
Damiano.
Bye bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye bye.